Are you a South African musician trying to figure out if a single or album is better for you? Welcome to this episode where I plan on demystifying just that. Cue the intro. What's up, it's your boy Skill from skillmusicsa.com and welcome to my channel where I share information with my fellow South African musicians to help them improve on their music business. If this sounds interesting to you, please do consider subscribing as I do have other videos I think you will find informative. In this video, I plan on sharing my opinion on singles versus albums and which one may be better for you. So the very first consideration that you have to put up when you're saying singles versus albums is obviously the money. So in terms of the money is how much money it is to make a project. In terms of singles are in definition only one song. So that means all your money can be focused into one pool, one song. In terms of a project or an album in this case, a project generally has more than 5 songs. If you, let's say it's an EP, or an album has 8 to 10, maybe even 20 in some cases. So you generally need more money to put in to create these songs. Now a list of costs that come with making any project, whether it's a single or an album, would be like beat production, mixing and mastering, marketing, paying for services such as featured artists, and administrative work if you have a lot of administration work that you do not want to do yourself. So these costs are multiplied by the number of tracks that you have in a project, whereas in a single, you only have to pay that once. So in terms of budget constraints, singles do win this debate as they cost less. But it could be said that if you have most of those costs covered because you're doing everything for free or through some form of relationship with a producer, a sound engineer, etc., that the single and album costs are nullified. But keeping it simple, singles are a better option if you're only considering the money going into the project. Number 2, another consideration between a single and a project is the focus levels required for whatever you are doing. So for a single, as I said before, there's only one song that you can put all your energy in, which may be a good thing or a bad thing. But in terms of an album, if you're having multiple songs, that means you have to write multiple times, you have to focus on multiple things, because in the nature of an album means that the mastering process is not the same as a single, for an example, but also the marketing strategy is totally different. In terms of writing as well, a single in general is a standalone piece of work, so you don't necessarily have to have a cohesive thought process or focus when you're creating this. But an album, when you're writing, has to somewhat intertwine to a bigger picture, whatever the album is called, and most of the time it is a journey type of theme. So you have to try to get the similar type of production. If you're not using a single producer, you have to be mixing and mastering by hopefully the same type of people or the same person. So the focus is a little more different when you're doing a project. Now, in terms of which one is better in terms of focus levels, you can't actually actively say which one is better. It's a case-by-case basis, but to make it simpler, it's easier to focus on one song versus 8 songs. Another component that you want to consider when you're weighing up a single versus an album or project is the marketing potential of whatever you're doing. So a single is, as I said before, one song, but there's no cohesive project or cohesive story behind just a single. Versus an album is generally a story. There's several songs in there which you can take out, pull in, and generally have a diverse marketing edge or idea with regards to a project. Also, when you're having a project, it generally has more street credibility because it is a project. So generally people see the word album, EP, or mixtape as a lot more heavier in terms of social pressure versus a single. Marketing as well, you have multiple songs to market, so you generally should have more marketing potential, that for an album. For simplicity's sake, I would say the album wins the marketing edge or the marketing potential versus the single. Another thing that some people should be considering when weighing up between a single or an album is the amount of effort that you have to put in. A single is one song, one effort to put in, and generally simpler. There is less effort required to release singles. You can literally wake up today, say, hey, I'm gonna write a single, write the single, record the single, get it over and done with, publish it to whichever distributor you use, and you could have your single out. Versus an album, there is generally a longer process to go in because of the finances, the ideas that you have to do, different type of writing styles that you want to try out. So in terms of the effort required to create this between a single and album, it is easier for the single versus an album. Another consideration between an album versus a single is the content potential that you could have. This is a broad topic really, but basically it's how frequently can you be releasing whatever this type of project is, and how often can you be marketing the similar type of information from the same type of project. Project's also a single. So a single, you generally have one song, you're recording once, there's usually minimal amount of story involved, so the amount of content that you can be pushing out is a lot more difficult. So you can only do so much with a single. Versus an album, there's a lot of tracks inside there, so the potential is technically higher. But on the flip side, a single, technically you can be releasing a different single every 2 weeks. Versus an album is a lot more effort, 4 to 6 months. In some cases, it takes years to release albums, but the potential to frequently produce a single is a lot higher than the potential to produce an album. And the very last topic I would like to discuss between the debate singles versus albums is the credibility. Now, everyone can release a single. It is easy to release a single, and that's why a lot of people do it. Versus an album, generally people do see it as a higher step versus a single, so the credibility is a lot higher for an album release versus a single release, because people generally understand the effort required for the credibility. Now, to close off the debate, which one is better for any independent South African musician? The quick answer is both. You have to be doing a project and you have to be releasing singles. Generally, the only way to successfully promote an album is by pre-releasing singles to help stimulate your audience, to let them know where you're going with your sound, what you're trying out, and it's also a way of getting information from the crowd to see which type of songs they like, and if you're going to be using a similar sound, to use the ones that your audience most gravitates to market your album. So in general, you should be releasing singles and you should be releasing a project. Now, the timelines are different because generally people have different writing styles, but I highly suggest that you should be releasing a single at least once every 2 months, but preferably once a month, because it is generally easier to release a single. And in terms of a project, once a year is the bare minimum, but some cases, some writers can release 2 projects a year. It's not suggested because then you don't give time for your previous project, but it's also how you're going about marketing. If you're having a full-blown tour for your album, then it's not practical to be also writing and touring at the same time. But if touring, like currently at this situation right now, touring is not possible, you could be doing 2 albums a year. But whatever suits you, I highly suggest that you consider doing both singles and projects. But that concludes this video, and I hope you found it informative, and if you did, please hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, as I do plan on releasing more and more videos to help my fellow South African musicians to improve on their music business. I'd also like to let you know that I have a free SAMRO online registration guide which you can download easily on my website. I will leave a link in the description below, and I also have a WhatsApp group where I inform my community once a week on relative information to help them improve on their music business. But that concludes this video, and until next time, Skilligan the Hooligan, signing.